Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the engine that drives the entire Bitcoin network. We'll get into what it is, how it actually works, and then check out a pretty fascinating new way for investors to plug directly into its power. All right, let's just jump right in with a question that, seems super simple on the surface. But the answer, that's really where the magic of Bitcoin lies. Right. So unlike the money you're used to, dollars, euros, whatever, that a government just prints, nobody's in charge of making new Bitcoin. It's generated by a global community through this really cool process called mining. And look, when I say mining, I know what you're thinking. Pickaxes, dusty prospectors, right? Forget all that. In the 21st century, Bitcoin mining looks like this. Massive warehouses humming with computers, all locked in a global competition around the clock. Okay, so here's the key thing to get. These miners, they're doing two critical jobs at the same time. On one hand, yeah, they're like digital gold prospectors digging up new Bitcoins. But on the other hand, they're also the network's accountants. It's security guards. They verify every single transaction, making sure the whole system stays honest. So what does this puzzle race actually look like? Well, picture this. Every 10 minutes, like clockwork, a super difficult math problem gets blasted out to the entire network. Thousands, maybe millions of computers are all racing, trying to be the first to find the solution. And the winner? They get to add the next block of transactions to the blockchain, and for their trouble, they get rewarded with a block of brand new Bitcoin. And I mean it. This is literally the only way new Bitcoins are ever created. And this is so important to understand. Mining isn't just some optional feature. It is the network. It's the beating heart, the immune system, everything. Without these miners, there are no new coins, no transactions get verified. The whole thing just grinds to a halt. It simply would not exist. So you're probably thinking, wow, this sounds pretty cool. Maybe I should get a computer and start mining, right? It's the natural next question. Can just anyone get in on this? Well, the short answer is not really. Not anymore. See, back in, say, 2012, you absolutely could. You could fire up your home PC and mine some Bitcoin. But today, the game is on a whole different level. It's gone from a hobby to a full-blown industrial arms race. You need these crazy specialized computers called ASICs. They're built for one thing and one thing only, solving that puzzle as fast as humanly possible. Throw in the fact that you need access to ridiculously cheap electricity, and yeah, it's a big leagues game now. And this professionalization, it creates a huge wall, not just for you and me, but for big money too. A lot of institutions and hedge funds, they have rules that stop them from just going out and buying Bitcoin on an exchange. So what happens? You get this massive pent-up demand for other ways in, for structured, compliant, regulated products that can act as a gateway. Which brings us to how that challenge is being met. We're starting to see a whole new kind of financial product pop up, one designed specifically to build a bridge between the world of traditional finance and the actual engine room of Bitcoin. And a really interesting example of this is something called the Pivotal Mining Note, or PMN. So what is it? At its core, it's a security token, but what it represents is a contract for the future output of a Bitcoin mine. The best way to think about it is like a mining bond. You're not buying Bitcoin today, you're buying a claim on the Bitcoin that will be mined tomorrow, all wrapped up in a package that traditional investors can actually understand and use. And when you dig into the details, you see why this is so appealing to serious investors. Look, it's compliant with SEC regulations, that's huge. It's a locked 36-month contract, so you know exactly what you're getting into. And the Bitcoin that's mined, it's held by regulated giants like Coinbase custody. See? It's all about transparency, security, and ticking all the boxes that institutions need ticked. Okay, so the structure sounds solid. It's compliant, it's secure, but the real question, the one you're probably asking is, does it actually work? Is this a better strategy than just, buying Bitcoin? Let's take a look at the data. And the numbers are pretty eye-opening. A backtest that looked at a 3-year period showed that this PMN strategy would have accumulated almost 48% more Bitcoin than if you had just used a simple dollar cost averaging, or DCA strategy. And just as a refresher, DCA is when you just buy, say, $100 worth every single week, no matter what the price is doing. So how? How is that even possible? Well, this is the secret sauce right here. Because you're investing in the production of Bitcoin, your average cost to acquire each coin was over 50% lower than the average price on the open market. It's basically the difference between buying something at wholesale direct from the factory versus buying it at retail in a store.
You're tapping into the efficiencies of industrial-scale mining, the cheap power contracts, the top-of-the-line hardware, without having to build the factory yourself.
So who is this for exactly? Well, it's definitely aimed at the professional crowd. We're talking family offices, crypto hedge funds, the big institutional players. But it's also a really interesting tool for any serious long-term Bitcoin believer who gets the value of low-cost accumulation but has absolutely no interest in dealing with the immense headache of managing their own hardware. And that's really the main takeaway here. A product like PMN isn't just another ETF or some complicated derivative. It's not tracking the price of Bitcoin. It is the production of Bitcoin. It's a piece of the actual infrastructure tokenized. And that really leaves us with a huge, fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? As more and more real-world infrastructure, not just digital stuff like mining rigs, but physical things too, gets tokenized and put on a blockchain, could this completely change the way we invest? I mean, what does a portfolio even look like in a world like that? That's a future that's definitely worth keeping an eye on.